Hello, and thank you for finding my channel. It's a brand new channel. It's going to be exciting. We're going to be sharing all kinds of spiritual encounter and ghost stories. Send them in if you got them. These are some that I thought you might like. Enjoy. I was talking to a coworker the other day about an interesting post that I used to work at. This was back in the late 90s. It was a hospital that had closed down, and attached to the hospital there was like a tunnel and then an office building. They called it the Pro Building. And I remember calling to see if a particular security company had any open posts, because I needed another part-time job. And they said, yeah, but we only have a night shift. And it's kind of hard to fill. And I said, okay. I always work nights, so what's the problem? And they said, well, it's in a hospital, and a lot of people don't really care for working in a closed hospital by themselves. And this post will be by yourself. I said, I have no problem with that. Where is it? And they said, here. And they told me the city. And I said, well, I'll gladly work there. I used to work there. And they said, really? And I said, yeah. I was a med tech there back in the late 70s, and then in the mid 80s, I was security there. So yeah, I have no problem working there. And also, when I was an EMT and worked on the BLS ambulance, we would take patients in and out of there. So I said, I know that hospital like the back of my hand. I even know the shortcuts back, like between recovery and ICU and surgery, a little back hallways and stuff. You know, I said, I know all of that. And I said, so, yeah, I think it'd be fun. And they said, well, okay then. They were pleased to find someone that wasn't scared to work at night in a closed down hospital by themselves. Well, if I really could have designed the perfect post for me, that would have been it. And so I was ecstatic. And they told me to come on the evening shift to train, because the guy that would be training me would be the one I would relieve at night. I said, okay. So I go, and it's still daylight. It's probably an hour before dark. And he shows me around, and I explained that I'd done security there before, many years before, back when the hospital was still functional, and worked there as a tech. And he said, oh, cool. He said, well, most of the guards won't go in the hospital. He said, and everybody's okay with that. He said, just go around on the outside and make sure that all the doors are secure and the windows are closed. And, you know, the doors are locked, windows are closed, and there's no apparent break-in. He said, because there might be someone in there, or several people. Since it's right at the highway, there are people that are hitchhiking or transients that may go in there. And he said it wouldn't be real safe if you were in there by yourself with them. And I said, okay. And I said, but I may go in there and look around. Just kind of depends on how my gut feels. You know, if I feel safe, or I kind of don't. It all depends. And he said, well, what would you do if you sensed or went in there and you heard somebody or heard a noise? I said, well, I'd freeze, not make any noise, be real quiet, listen to see if it might be a I would try to ascertain if it was an animal or a person or numerous people, what direction they were coming from, what they were doing, and look around to see if there was somewhere I could hide but still listen and observe. And I said, really, I do know this hospital well. And I said, so wouldn't be hard for me to find somewhere. He said, well, that's pretty smart. Okay. And of course, we were unarmed. And he said, but I can't tell you, you shouldn't have tear gas or mace or stun gun, because it would kind of be smart if you did, but we're not supposed to have it, but it would be understood. You know, we'd understand. And I said, yeah, I get you. I'll make sure things are cool. He said, okay. He took me through the tunnel. We went in probably 20 feet into the hospital, and he was kind of explaining where things, you know, this is what the guards do or whatever. And he said, but you don't have to. And then he wanted to get back out of the hospital, go back through the tunnel, and back to the pro building. And they explained my duties inside the pro building and about rounds and such. And he said, when the lieutenant comes, and he'll come check on you. He may even come a couple of times a shift, since you're by yourself and female and, you know, just started. He said he may show up quite often. And I said, that's fine. And he said, but you got to go outside. He won't come in. I said, okay. Is there something, can he walk, or, you know, is he mobility impaired? He said, oh no. He said he came in here several months ago with his wife. His wife was riding with him that night when he was making rounds, checking on the guards, and he came in and we were talking. And he said, I was facing the doors, and him and his wife were in front of me. He was facing me. And he said, he glanced up and said, oh, you got somebody up there? And he was pointing to the balcony up on the second floor. And he said, I told him, no one's here but us. He said, no, I just saw a kid up there. Looked like a little girl, kind of honey-colored hair, looking over the balcony. And his wife said she saw her too. Guard said, no, nobody's here. So one of them took the elevator, another one of them went up on the stairwell and went up to the second floor. They checked all the doors, all the offices, all of them were locked. There were no kids anywhere. And so then they went downstairs and went around the building to see if maybe a doctor had pulled up out back, because they had covered parking for the doctors out in the back. And they thought maybe a doctor had pulled up and then came in the back door with this kid and went up there, and they didn't know, the guard didn't know. But there were no cars anywhere. And the lieutenant got kind of spooked. He said he wasn't going to come back in there, and that the guard would have to come outside. Unless it was an emergency. And, you know, to where something happened and they had to call the cops, he wasn't going to come inside again. And so I said, all right, okay. Now, he told me that he had seen a reflection by looking out the office area where we were stationed was an old pharmacy. Right inside the door, it was on the right. It was an old pharmacy. And all the shelves were still in it, but of course no medicine and no register and, you know, those kinds of things. There were some chairs and a desk in the back for us, but pretty much nothing else. And he said he would sit there and look towards the lobby area, and across from the pharmacy area was nothing but a big wall of glass. Nothing but windows all the way up. I guess there's 3 stories there, if I remember correctly. And it was 3 stories of glass windows. And he said he has seen movement from the 2nd floor, a reflection off of the window. He said, so I concur that there is something here. And he said, no, I didn't see that it was a little girl, I just saw movement. But there is something that comes here. And he said, it's obviously a ghost. And I said, cool. He looked at me kind of strange. Kind of shook his head. Well, the very next day, I went to Goodwill and thrift store looking for some of those toys like they had back in the 60s and 70s that you pull on, has little rollers on the bottom, and you pull the string and you drag them behind you and they make a noise or whatever when you pull them. Kind of like a little wagon type thing, but you pull, it's got a rope on it. You just drag them behind, the little baby toddlers drag them behind them and they make noise. Well, I found a couple of those and bought them, took them to work, put them up there on the balcony, and nothing. Nothing. They didn't make noise, they didn't move. So I bought a little red ball and put between the two and just begged for the little girl ghost to come. Nothing. She wouldn't come for anything. No matter what toys I'd bring, she didn't want to play. And so I always wondered, did she show up? Was that just like a fluke? She shows up and, in and out, she's gone, and I just so happened to never catch her? Or did she only show up to people and be around to people that she knew would freak out? And she refused to come because I wanted her there. I don't know. Can't make sense out of that one. But, well, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it gave you something to think about. If you've got a story, send it to the email address provided. And keep listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you liked it, hit like. This is a brand new channel, and you can help us make it grow. Send in your stories. Bye. Be safe out there.